We've got one of my favorite representatives in Congress of all time. He is the chairman of the Straight Talk Express from the 10th District of Georgia. Yes, one of my Georgia buds, Congressman Dr. Paul Broun, and that's in the Athens area. He's a Republican, and he is what you would call a deficit hawk. And Dr. Broun, as always, great to have you with us.
John, it's great being with you, but let me add to what you were just saying. Why in the name of anything do the press keep talking to somebody else besides the Mitt Romney folks? But John McCain, come on. I mean, he is not my voice as a Republican. John McCain, God bless him, and I know John, and I like him personally, but he's certainly not the face and the voice of the Republican Party, certainly the Republican Party that I know. So come on, get off of it, press. Let's have some real Republicans who really believe in limited government speak, and that's what I'm all about, John.
Well, Dr. Broun, that's why we have you on our show, to tell our audience what's really going on. And why don't we get right to we're going to talk about two issues today. We're going to get back to the brand of the GOP, which we believe is in the tank right now. But let's go right to the debt and this deficit situation. We've got another debt ceiling increase coming down the pike in a few weeks. President Obama is already on TV blaming Republicans as obstructionists for everything. But we owe $16.4 trillion. How do we solve this thing?
Well, first thing, we don't create more debt. Actually, the obstructionist is Harry Reid and Barack Obama. Harry Reid acts as a puppet for Barack Obama. Barack Obama is nothing but a radical Marxist socialist, and he believes that the federal government needs to control everything in everybody's lives, and we've got to have more federal spending, more federal control, loss of our liberty, loss of the free enterprise system, and that's what he's fighting for. So we're obstructing his radical, communistic, fascist, socialistic, Marxist, ideological governance. He's the radical here, and he's the obstructionist here. It's him and his minion, his puppet, Harry Reid, that's obstructing a strong economy and creating more debt. Let me tell you something, John. Before Barack Obama, our annual deficits, which I disagree with. I believe in a balanced budget. In fact, I have introduced a balanced budget amendment. But our annual deficits, the debt created every year, averaged about $200 billion. Well, that's $200 billion too much, in my opinion. But now, for 5 years under Barack Obama's rule, as Valerie Jarrett said, we've had 5 now straight years of over $1 trillion deficit. This is unsustainable. We've got to start cutting spending, and instead of raising taxes, we need to raise taxpayers by getting the economy moving. Stop creating more debt. Let's cut out massive parts of the federal government that have no constitutional authority to be in there. For instance, let's get rid of the Department of Education. Let those powers, those dollars go back to the states and the people so we can have a good educational system and we can pay our teachers more. And we'll start there and go to the EPA and then go further and further. And that's the kind of policy that I've been fighting for.
No one that understands math can, with a straight face, say that we can continue to run trillion-dollar deficits annually while increasing a $16.5 trillion debt in perpetuity and not be a consequence. Dr. Broun, let me ask this question straight out based on what you just said. Are you prepared with other conservatives in the Republican conference to shut the government down if indeed the Democrats and President Obama do not come to the table with some real spending cuts before they ask to increase the debt limit?
John, when we were dealing with earlier, I put together a website called Countdown to the Shutdown because I believe very firmly that Barack Obama, Harry Reid, and Nancy Pelosi want to shut the government down. They want to blame Republicans for doing so because I believe that's exactly what they think is needed to put Nancy Pelosi back in the Speaker's chair. And I think that's exactly what they're trying to do with all of these issues as they come up, whether it was with sequestration and the super committee that Barack Obama gave us. Actually, he gave us the sequestration. And frankly, that's the first real spending cuts, though they were just minuscule in my opinion, that we've seen. But he wanted to cut defense markedly. Did not want to touch the entitlement programs, the big health care programs. That's what's going to cause the economic collapse of our nation. And he still doesn't want to touch those things. Wants to expand them, actually. But I believe they want to shut the government down. And John Boehner is absolutely petrified of that idea. Now, from my perspective, we cannot continue spending. We absolutely must stop this outrageous spending that's going on in Washington by both parties. And I've been very critical of my party as well as the Democrat Party for spending money that we don't have and creating this situation where we're going to have a true fiscal cliff, not this little bump that was forecast back January 1st, but a true fiscal cliff where we're going to be just like Greece if we don't stop spending, and I want to prevent it. And it's going to be some tough medicine to try to work through the process of getting our government back to be fiscally responsible. We're absolutely irresponsible now, and those people who continue to spend money are tremendously financially irresponsible. And if it takes a resetting by just saying we're not going to fund any more of the government except for what we can fund, which is not truly a government shutdown, I want to do that. We don't have to default on our debts. The thing we have to do is stop spending, and we can shut down the Department of Education, we can shut down the EPA, we can shut down a lot of the big bureaucracies in government. Let the states run those programs as they should under the Constitution and the 10th Amendment,
right.
And let's go forwards. We can pay our troops. We can have a strong national defense. We can take care of our obligations, even our Social Security and Medicare obligations, and just stop spending money. And that's what I'm focusing on, and that's what I'm going to fight for. And I'm not going to vote to create more debt.
Well, that's the straight talk truth right there, because when the president gets on TV and starts saying Social Security checks aren't going out, we're going to default on our debt, that's all red herrings, because there is enough money coming in to pay for that. All they have to do is to cut other things. We've coined Dr. Brown is the chairman here of the Straight Talk Express.
I love it, John. Thank you.
Now, we've got to ask you this. You were I did a column during the other shutdown that almost happened, saying that I thought there was going to be a challenge to Speaker Boehner within the Republican conference. He only got reelected by basically 3 votes. Dr. Brown, you were one of the representatives in the Republican conference that did not cast a ballot for Boehner's reelection as Speaker. Why?
Well, I think we need somebody who's going to go to a bare-knuckle street fight with a gun, frankly. And maybe that's not politically correct to say, but you don't bring – there's an old saying, at least here in Georgia, it's probably nationwide, you don't bring a knife to a gunfight. And what we're having is we've got a bare-knuckle street brawl in Barack Obama, who has really not even come to the tables. And John Boehner has just been too nice, frankly. He's tried to negotiate. He's been scared to death of this idea of a government shutdown, and he's already told Barack Obama, he's told the world that he will do anything to prevent a government shutdown. I have people here in Georgia that say, shut the government down. Well, I don't want to shut the government down, but we can't continue. The whole government's going to shut down when the financial collapse, if we're headed towards, and people are going to be in the street because we can't even pay our federal workers. If we continue down the road we're on, and so I wanted to have somebody that would be a bare-knuckles street fighter, just like Barack Obama and Harry Reid are. I mean, they're thugs. They're mugging the American people, is what they're doing. They're robbing our children and our grandchildren's future, to use what's gotten to be a trite phrase, but it's factual. And we've got to fight very hard with this radical socialist Marxist president that we have, and his minion, his puppet that's in the in the U.S. Senate and Harry Reid, and he's got another one in Nancy Pelosi. All three of them are just radical Marxists, and we've got to have somebody who's going to fight hard. Now, after the election, John Boehner said that he's going to fight hard, and I'm going to hold his feet to the fire to make sure that he does.
Congressman, final question. I've got about 1 minute. What do the Republicans, as you all are going to convene for your annual retreat in Williamsburg, our neck of the woods, what do the Republicans have to do to reinvigorate their brand after the Mitt Romney catastrophe and what we call the Boston Massacre?
Well, it was a Boston Massacre of the Republican Party. We've just got to go back to the same principles that made this country great, and those are the constitutional principles of limited government, the free enterprise system, personal responsibility and accountability, and a strong national defense. Those are the basic principles of the Republican Party. And frankly, ever since Ronald Reagan, our two Republican presidents have cut the defense. They have cut our intelligence gathering capability. We need to build those things up. We're getting to the point that we're not secure as a nation, in my opinion, from an intelligence perspective, nor from a defense perspective. We need to build those things up, but we need to send other powers back to the states and the people. John, my job should be a part-time job. I should be practicing medicine in Georgia full-time, going to Washington, voting on only those 18 things that Article 1, Section 8 gives Congress the authority to vote on,
right,
and coming back to Georgia. And we've got to start fighting for limited government, as our founding fathers meant it, and that's what will rebuild the Republican Party.
No question. Hey, Dr. Brown, we really want to thank you for joining us today. As always, we appreciate your unabashed candor and your straight talk here on the John Fredericks Show. We wish you the best in your Republican retreat in Williamsburg, and happy to have you in Virginia. Anyone that would like more information on Dr. Brown, you can go to Brown, that's BROUN.house.gov. Everything is right there. Dr. Paul Broun, Congressman, 10th District from Georgia. He's a Republican, and basically you've heard what Dr. Brown had to say. We need some changes. We want to, again, sir, thank you for joining us. We appreciate the time.
Thanks, John. And it's BROUN. My family that can't spell, I can't pronounce. I'm not sure which, but it's brown.house.gov. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks, John.
BRUN. All right, sir.
Thanks.
Thank
God
you
bless
so much.